And welcome, students, to Mr. Collins's tips on how to research like a champ, featuring me, Mr. Collins. Now, one of the things I find in Year 7 is that students have a really hard time researching for their assignments. Let's have a look at your assignment, what you have to do. So here it is here. Here's the experimental report task sheet, and you're having a look at how air resistance and canopy size of a parachute, which is the cloth section here, affects the time it takes for a parachute to land. Now, we've got some background information here on parachutes. Here's the question that you need to answer, and you're actually going to be doing an experiment in groups at school to answer the above question. You're going to have to, though, complete an experimental report, which is going to be done in Word, and that's going to be a maximum length of 600 words. You can see the due dates here for a progress check and the final due date, some more information or conditions about the report. I suggest you have a look at the perusal time planning checklist, go through this report, have a tick off with your parents, tick all the different aspects once you've completed it, and then tick these as well once you've actually started to write it. You can have a look at the criteria sheet as well to see what the teachers are looking for A's, B's, C's, D's, etc. So what is an experimental report? Well, when a scientist does an experiment, they don't just do it and then the experiment's results are lost. They actually have to do a full report, and there's a special way that they do that. Here's how reports are. We've actually got a cheat sheet here for you, so you can have a look at what each part of the report is. So you've got title, introduction, aim, hypothesis, method. You can look at the different parts of the method there, the variables, materials, and procedure, results. So if you're going through the report and you're not sure what does each section include, you can have a look at this document. And so results. What do results include? Well, you put a results table, any observations that you made. You might like to include a graph. You don't discuss your results here. That's actually for the discussion. But if you do have a table and a graph, you need to make sure they have headings, so they're labeled correctly. Okay, so that's some pretty good information there. So before you do the experiment, you actually need to have worked out your title, worked out your introduction, aim, hypothesis, and method. The results, discussion, conclusion, and bibliography, they can be done after you've done the actual experiments and actually got your data. So one of the tricky things is the introduction. Now, the introduction is where you introduce the experiment to someone who might read the experimental report later. So they might have some questions. For example, what is air resistance? How is it caused? And they might like to know, how does the findings from this experiment, how will they be useful in everyday life? Now, usually, we don't give you the questions here. You have to come up with those questions yourself and discuss the experiment without any help from your teachers. But because you're in Year 7, we've actually given you a few of those questions to answer. So now that you've done that, we've actually also given you a template that you can work through as you do your assignment. So read this. Your report starts here. You are to work through it, and as you follow the red instructions, delete the red. You can see this starts on page 3. It goes down. If you follow this, delete the red, you will be able to fully do a pretty good report if you follow the instructions. Maybe even get a B if you go the extra mile, an A. So I've read that, I'm going to delete it. Next step says add your name to the footer and save it onto your iPad and OneDrive. So the idea is, if you save it to OneDrive, then you can work on your report here. This is the template, so you'll be working with this document here. This is what you'll hand in once you've deleted all the red and filled in all the sections. But if you save it onto OneDrive, then you can access it at home. So you can work on it at school, go back to home, and everything you've done at school is there at home, and then you can save it at home, and then it is transferred back to your iPad at school, because you'll be working on your iPad at school, but you might like to work on a laptop at home. So let's pretend we've done both those things. And it says add your name to the footer. Let me do that now. You double click the bottom, that opens up the footer, and I'm going to put my name there, Mr. Collins. Okay, so now we've given you the title already. Fantastic. What is your introduction about? Let's have a read. All the information has come from research. Okay, we're going to have to do some research, and it must be in-text reference. I'll talk about in-text referencing and making a bibliography in another video. It says using write in third person. So that means no me's, we's, I's, he's, anything that's personal language. You want to avoid that. You also need to answer it in paragraphs. The temptation is to just go and answer these questions one by one. And That's not going to read very well. Make it like an English essay where it's very well structured. You can actually answer the 5th point before you answer the 3rd point. You can add in, it says here, you are not limited to these questions, but any additional research must be linked to the specific experiments. You can add in some more questions, add in some more details. And I know the A students will definitely do that. Okay, you also need to write in past tense because somebody who's reading the report, they're going to be reading it after you've done the experiment. So you could say the purpose of this experiment was to, that's past tense, talking about something that happened in the past. I'm actually going to leave that there, even though I've read it, because I might like to come back to that. So, the first thing we need to research is what is air resistance. Let's go back to Mr. Collins's tips. Tip number 1 is search key terms. Don't ask Google a question. What do I mean by that? So when a student searches something, they'll often try to do this. What is air resistance? They'll type that in. Ask Google a question. Actually, Google doesn't work like that. It's starting to, and you'll see they've tried to answer your question there, but a computer's just come up with that for you. It might be good, it might not be so good. What you should probably do is type in air resistance by itself. Just search the key terms. It doesn't have to be in a correct sentence. And I could write then parachute, because I'm looking at air resistance in terms of parachutes. So that comes up with some more information there. That's not too bad. But let's just search air resistance for now because we're getting some general information. That leads me into tip 2, and that's to do some background reading. So before you start any research, you want to have a pretty good understanding of the topic at large. Here's how I like to do it. So I type in air resistance, and then I open up different tabs. I'll open up this tab, you right click, open up a new tab, open up a new tab, and this helps me get a lot of information really, really quickly, because if I'm having to go back and forth to this original page, it's going to take a long time. Now, the problem today is not finding out information, but is finding information that is good. Information that isn't cluttered with bad information, that's reliable, that's easy to read, and is at your level of understanding, year 7 level of understanding. So here's what I do. I open up the first page, and I'm going to have a quick look, or maybe spend 5 seconds glancing at it. Does this look good? Yes, no. I'm going to say no. So I close that tab. Oh, next one's Wikipedia. Let me talk about Wikipedia. Now, you can't use Wikipedia in your assignment. Here's why. Anyone can go on Wikipedia, including yourself, and change the information. However, for background reading, Wikipedia isn't too bad. Let's have a read. In fluid dynamics, drag, sometimes called air resistance. Oh, that's interesting. Drag is sometimes called air resistance. It refers to forces acting opposite to the relative motion of any objects with respect to the surrounding fluid. And I think this reading level is a bit too difficult for us, so I'm going to delete that one. How about this? Oh, this doesn't look too bad. A force is a push or pull. Air resistance is a force of air pushing against a moving object. Air resistance is a type of frictional force. Actually, that's pretty good. I'm going to leave that one up, and I'm going to read through this whole document, spend some time, because I think this is a good one to read. Maybe spend 5 minutes having a read. This one, no. This one, oh, definitely not. Look at all those equations in there. That's good for senior physics, but not for year 7. So I might do that, have spent a bit more time reading. Now, it's up to tip number 3. Save your information in a logbook. Okay, I find students will find out some good information, then go home and they've forgotten where they got it from. Then they have to try and search and find it again. Here's what you do. You start a logbook, and I make my logbooks like this, with a table of the site, information, own words, and content. I make a lot of these different tables up, and for every single site I go to, I'm going to fill out one of these. Only the good ones though, only the ones where I've got lots of information from. So, what question are we researching? Now it's actually, we've done our background reading, it's time to start answering the question. So what is air resistance? I'm going to put that into my logbook. So this section of the logbook is dealing with what is air resistance. So I want it to come up the top there rather than the bottom. Good. So let's start having a look. What is air resistance? So I'm going to go to this website, and then I'm going to start copying and pasting some of the good bits of information, like that bit I read before. Air resistance is a force of the air pushing. Then I'm going to paste that into my logbook. Actually, before I do, I should probably take a copy of the URL, and I should put it up on the top there. Good. Now, let's see if I can find some more good information. Keep reading, keep reading. Oh, air pressure. This is interesting. Oh, air resistance is the result of collisions of an object's surface with air molecules. That's good. I'm going to copy that down. Let's have a look here. The large surface area of a parachute increases the air resistance force. That's good. That's really good, actually. Copy and paste that as well. But here's the thing. You can't put all that. You can't copy and paste into your final assignment. You need to put this into your own words. Let's take that last point there. Now I'm going to start writing some stuff into my own words. And actually, if I had more time, I'd probably put all 3 of these points into my own words. Here's my trick. Don't look at the original information and how it's worded. Try to get a general summary, and then without looking at it, try to write it into your own words. So I'm going to write here, for this last point, I'm going to say here, the larger the surface area of a parachute, the larger the parachute, the larger the air resistance due to the collisions of the parachute with air molecules. That's pretty good. Actually, I've included both these points in that summary. And if I started talking about how it's resisting the movement and how it's a type of frictional force, if I included that in there, that would be really good. So let's go to some comments. Make some comments. The first comment I'm going to make is the date that I did it, which is the 18th of March. I'm going to need that for my bibliography later on. Next, I might say this is a good site. Great site. Is there an author? Have a look for an author. No author. So I'll just write Squirk. No author. Now, actually, you should search a little bit longer for the author, but I've already been to that website and had a search. I couldn't find the author there. Now, again, I've got. I would then copy this whole section again, and then delete the information, and then I would do it for another website until I've got enough information that I'm happy. Oh, it's all messed up there. You might want to sort that out yourself. But the idea is that you keep doing this until you've gotten many different sites in the logbook, not just the one there. So my next tip is to do an advanced Google search. So a lot of students don't know, but you can do an advanced Google search. Here's what you do. See this little button here? It's like a little cog wheel. I click on that, and then I click on advanced search, and I come up with this. Have a play around with the different aspects. These can all be helpful, but one that's really helpful is reading level. You're in year 7, you probably only want to show basic results. If I click on that, I will get search results that are aimed at students for year 7, about year 7 age, basic results. This one here I found was particularly good. It was written, what causes air resistance? The Earth's atmosphere is packed full of gas molecules. You want to click on gas, find out what that is. You can click on that little link there. By walking in a plane or dangling from a parachute, you have to push them out of the way. We only really notice this when we're moving at a speed. This is really good, and I found that using an advanced Google search. Another advanced search you can do is click on that little cog again. It's moved. Click here, and I can say site or domain, and I can change that to .edu. So instead of .com or .org, I change it to .edu. Now, if I do a .edu search, that only finds websites that come from educational institutions. To have a .edu at the end of your URL, that means that you are either a school or university. This one's the University of Illinois, Virginia. Not sure what that is, but it is a .edu. You could have a look at some of the different ones. Now, you can use .coms still. You don't have to use always .edus, but a few .edus shows that you're looking for reliable information, because anyone can create a .com, but not anyone can create a .edu. And this one doesn't look so good. I'm going to get rid of it. But I'm going to also change it again. If I want to change it to advanced search, I'm going to change it to .gov. Now, like .edu, .gov has to be from a government website, and government websites are usually pretty good. Now notice I'm also still searching for basic results there. If I'm not getting the results, maybe I'll go back to intermediate and see if any are good, like beginner's guide to propulsion, balloon rocket car. No, I don't want a balloon rocket car. Okay, so once you've done that process, started to fill out your logbook, you've answered all these questions, what is air resistance, you've gone back, you've had a look, you've made sure that you're writing in paragraphs, you've answered all this, well, then you've written your introduction. Next time, I'm going to talk about in-text referencing, and then how to do this last section here, the bibliography.